Hey guys, I just wanted to start this video with a quick little disclaimer. It's a speed paint, so there's going to be a lot of flashing lights, so if you're sensitive to something like that, proceed with caution or exit out of the video. Hello! I just wanted to jump straight into things. This is my first ever speed paint video, so I'm very excited to be sharing this with you guys. Right now I'm drawing Joe, who's the main character in my story before the afterlife, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about both the characters and the story itself, and I kind of briefly mentioned the story and talked about just the basics in my previous video, but this one is all about it, and I really just wanted to delve into everything. The story revolves around a young man who you see on the screen. His name is Jonah Joe Whitfield. He's 22 years old and lives with his parents while he attends college just to save some money. Joe has always had like a sensitivity to things that most others do not. He's had dreams in the past that have come true, and he's seen things and had conversations with people that weren't really there. His family just assumed him to be an empathetic child, and Joe learned to ignore these strange experiences for the most part. Eventually, though, Joe grew out of this and lived fairly normally, rarely having these bizarre experiences anymore as he grew up. Joe has always felt a bit out of place wherever he went, not quite fitting in no matter what he did. Despite his best efforts, he always had this lingering sense in the back of his mind that something wasn't quite right. He managed to ignore and push these feelings aside for as long as he could. That was until he moved into his mother's new house. During his second year of college, Joe's mother finds out about his father's infidelity and immediately packs up her belongings and moves across the country to start anew. Rather than stay and live with his father, Joe decides to transfer schools and moves alongside his mother. The house itself was gorgeous. It was freshly painted and completely refurbished on the inside despite being built decades prior. The reason for its pristine appearance was due to a murder that took place in the home only a few years before Joe and his mother moved in. Despite the unfortunate history of the house, Joe and his mother made the place feel like home. After living in the house for about a week, Joe found himself falling into his old paranoia. He kept feeling like he was being watched and seeing things move out of the corner of his eye. He chalked it up to nerves, gearing up to begin at his new university. Surely that's all it was. Joe had already spent so long convincing himself that the things he used to endure were all in his head. Being confronted with similar experiences as an adult was disorienting. After multiple entirely unexplained instances, Joe finally accepted that what he was experiencing was real. He finally reached out to the ghost, discovering that his name was Max. Both Max and Joe are entirely ignorant as to why Max remains in the house, so Joe begins research. After his search, Joe discovers that ghosts are typically created after a violent death and their spirits are tethered to an object of significance. A ghost can pass into the afterlife by either obtaining closure and choosing to sever their tie to this world, or by having their objects of significance destroyed. Joe and Max are still confused as to why Max remains in the house after all his belongings were removed. Later, it's discovered that Max was entirely aware of why he was still tethered to the house, as he often hid things under the floorboards in his closet as a child. He knew that his journal sat there collecting dust while his spirit was tethered to it. He hid this information from Joe as he finally felt like he had a friend for the first time in life or death. Max was terrified of passing and facing what may or may not come next, so he kept the journal a secret. Eventually, Joe learns about Max's journal and that Max intentionally hid it from him. Joe becomes livid. He feels betrayed. After all the work he put in, putting himself in dangerous scenarios to obtain information to help Max move on, he knew the whole time. In a fit of rage, Joe threatens to destroy the journal and force Max to pass. Seeing the fear in Max's eyes is harrowing, and Joe realizes that Max was just scared of the unknown. They reconcile and apologize to one another and decide to travel together, helping other stuck spirits pass on to the afterlife. So that's just what I have written as a basic rundown for the story itself. I'm pretty proud of it. I don't want to give too much more away as to like spoil anything, but I can talk a little bit about the drawing itself and Joe. This was a big struggle for me. I almost quit this drawing because it was so frustrating. It just was not, I was really having a really hard time. I almost completely gave up on it, but once I did the shading, I knew that I had to pull through because I was starting to really like it. I also, doing these character sheets, I wanted to make it look like each character wrote the information themselves. So I had to also kind of think about what I wanted their handwriting to look like, and also how they would present themselves and the things that they find important to write about. Joe is by far one of my favorite characters that I think I've ever created. He's a lot like me in a lot of ways. I just really love him. I love his design, I love his personality, and I am really excited to really start writing this webcomic and get more into his character. I also wanted to include some information for him specifically. I would imagine that bands and music are really important to him just because he has like a more alternative style, and like he has a battle vest and everything. And so I wanted to make up a band that was like a one from his hometown, and I designed like a little logo and a shirt for it, and I think it turned out really cute. But here is the final drawing. I think it turned out really great. I was really nervous to make the other two just because this one was such a struggle for me. But yeah, I decided that rather than sketch everything like from scratch, I really wanted to just use sketches that I already had and make digital versions of them, because I was really proud of like some of the sketches that I had in my sketchbook prior to this, and I really just wanted to have them in digital forms. For Max though, I've always, ever since I've made him, like I've had Joe and Max as characters since about 8th grade, and I am in my last year of college now, so I've had them for a really long time. But I've never like been super happy with the way that I draw Max. Like I feel like it's never quite consistent. So I go back and I like, even from the sketches in my sketchbook, like I draw over a lot of stuff and like kind of fix his face and make it look more like, I just wanted everything to look the same. Like I wanted it to look like the same character. And also I wanted to make these for myself just as a reference so that I would know how I like to draw them like moving forward. I also wanted to share the little tidbit that I had written about Max, but I just kind of want to warn, since Max is a ghost, what happened to him is really sad in the way that he died. But here's a little tidbit that I have written about him. Max Medina was a young man still living at home while he desperately fumbled around trying to figure out his next steps after graduating college. Max found himself home alone one night when a man broke in, only intending to rob the house, but things got out of hand fast when he discovered that there was someone home. The break-in resulted in Max being shot multiple times, killing him. Max's grief-stricken parents sold the house as fast as they could, and it remained vacant for years before it was bought up and redone completely in hopes of being sold despite the atrocity that took place. So that's the house that Joe and his mother move into. And as far as Max's design goes, I wanted to talk about like how I view ghosts in my story. So ghosts typically manifest devoid of color and like transparent. So here I have Max drawn in like mostly grayscale, which was a lot of fun to do. I don't really work with grayscale very often, except for like in the corners, like you'll see I have like silly little drawings of each of the characters that I had to do I did it for a class a while back. Like I just had to make like little drawings of characters, and so I chose Joe and Max and Aaron to do. So I already had these like cute little drawings of their color palettes. Also, I tried to, for the two colored faces for Max, I wanted to keep the saturation the same between the grayscale version and the colored version. So I think it turned out pretty good. I'm really happy with how I depicted him here. Again, because I said like that's something that I've really struggled with, is like keeping Max consistent. Because Joe has always been my favorite, and I definitely draw him the most, so I really have a great grasp of what he looks like. But I kind of struggle with keeping Max consistent. I loved drawing the pajama pants also. I hand did the whole pattern. I think they turned out really cute. But yeah, Max exists in his pajamas because that is what he was wearing when he passed away. And I think his outfit, as sad as it is, I think his outfit is really cute. He's just wearing his socks and pajama pants and a little cardigan. Like, that's just what he wears at night. For Max's handwriting, I really wanted him to have like a kind of like fluidity, like a mix of cursive and print for his handwriting, just because he's just that kind of person. Like, he's very carefree. Like he was a painter before he passed away, and that's what he studied in college. So he definitely has like this very like fluid kind of style to his writing. But yeah, so here's the final piece. I'm really happy with it, honestly, especially because I've really struggled to draw Max in the past. The fact that I was able to make a whole like reference sheet for him, very happy with it. Now we're moving into Aaron. As I mentioned in my previous video, Aaron is my newest. He's my favorite right now. He is my newest OC that I've made. So I mentioned that I've had Joe and Max since about 8th grade. But Aaron, I actually only made last summer. So I've only had him for about like 6-ish months, but he has completely consumed my sketchbooks. I just love vampires, and so the addition of vampires into this like supernatural themed story felt very right. I am also, this is kind of like a sneak peek, I'm thinking about including other supernatural beings. Like I really want to make like a siren character. So if I make a new character soon, that's probably what I'll be doing, is like a siren. Aaron's was definitely the easiest reference sheet for me to make, not only because like this was the 3rd one that I drew, but also because like I just draw Aaron so much that it's really easy to keep him consistent. Kind of the same with Joe. But I love drawing Aaron so much. There's just something about him that just comes so naturally to me. I really love his design. It's like super simplistic, but also there's enough character that it's unique enough that it's still definitely Aaron. I realize that I haven't really talked about Aaron as a character very much. He is a vampire, obviously, and he is Joe and Max's kind of guide into the supernatural world in their town. But the thing about him is that he has only been a vampire for a few years, like about 4 years. So he really doesn't know that much about it. So he's kind of just like bluffing his whole way through it. And it's kind of the 3 of them like trying to find their way in this like new supernatural world, along with being like ghost hunters, basically. So as far as his jacket goes, like I mentioned, really struggling with coloring leather. I had a lot of fun doing it digitally. I didn't use reference. I definitely should be using reference next time. But I mean, it just looks good. Like it looks super shiny. And I think that it turned out pretty good. But yeah, this one was definitely the easiest for me to draw. Also, like, I don't know why. Aaron just comes so naturally to me. Like he was just waiting to come out. However, his little character sheet, like what, I don't know what to call it, his little paper with all of his information on it, it was super frustrating for me. I had to take a break and like move on to drawing and like another part of the piece, just because it was just frustrating me. So I went back over to it and finished it up, but I don't know why, I was really struggling to come up with like ideas for him and how he would lay everything out. Here's the final piece, and I am super happy with it. I think this one is my favorite. Yeah, so thank you guys very much for watching. I want to do more speed paints in the future, maybe a specific video about one character at a time, like in particular. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you all soon. Bye!